Hello and welcome to InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw.
And I'm Ross Sutherland.
We're talking today about diabetes, which is an international, national epidemic. And with us today is Nate Darnell, the Vice President of Diabetes Support Services. There are two kinds, I understand, insulin dependent and type 2 diabetes, but give us better information than that.
Wendy, there are several different types of diabetes, but generally speaking, there are two types. You have insulin dependent, type 1 for instance. Oftentimes, more often than not, that's a child that has developed some type of injury or illness to the pancreas or even a genetic predisposition, so the pancreas stops producing insulin. Those are the rarer diagnoses, though. The greater population actually suffers from something called type 2 diabetes, which is when over time the pancreas begins to produce less and less and less insulin, and it begins to slowly wear out, in some cases even stop working.
Yeah, but it's an epidemic. Why?
What's happened over the past 3 decades is that we've all been consuming foods that are ultra processed. They're devoid of essential nutrients, but they're really high in fat and salt, and especially high fructose corn syrup. And when we consume those foods, they cause our pancreases to go into overdrive because there's so much sugar in them. And the other fat and sodium cause the rest of our cells not to work correctly, so it's kind of like a double whammy. And ultimately, our pancreas starts to wear out faster and our cells become less receptive to the insulin. And so as a result of that, it's causing a much greater increase in the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. Not all sugar is bad, I want to make that clear, but particularly high fructose corn syrup is one of the big challenges here. And we know just from youth that are consuming large amounts of soda pop that they're at much greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Well, can you talk about what your organization does to help people and their families that have diabetes?
Certainly. So Diabetes Support Services was started a little over 8 years ago by entrepreneurs Sal and Andra Underberg, who had been living with type 1 diabetes for over 50 years. He developed it at 22 years of age, just after they got married, and literally was diagnosed with it shortly after their first child was born. And so Sandra, being a committed partner, spent 50 years going through this educational process, and she witnessed a lot of the changes in the healthcare industry. And not only did she see the technical side of things, but she also spent every day with Al, and having to encounter the ups and the downs, and not just the technical and science side of things, but the psychology side of things and the caring partner side of things. And that's often what's missing from our current healthcare system. We have a lot of science, we have a lot of facts, but we have very little compassion. And so 8 years ago, Sandra had a friend who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and went to a local event that was sponsored by one of our large healthcare organizations. And the friend came back from that with tears in her eyes and was just confused, and was afraid and was terrified. And Sandra, talked to her and said, really, I'm not sure what they shared with you, but it's not that bad. And she said, why don't I go with you to the next one? So Sandra went, and Sandra was really kind of but beside herself with the way things were being shared, and really felt that things could be done better. And again, I mean, she in many ways has her GED in endocrinology. I mean, she's been living with the disease longer than some endocrinologists have even been alive. And so she has a great wealth just of practical experience. And as a result of that, she started the organization because she felt that there was a great epidemic among youth, and felt that would be the primary demographic, and then realized very quickly everybody that was showing up had gray hair. And she realized that it was individuals in their later years that actually needed the greatest amount of help. And more recently, we've circled back around because of the increasing epidemic of diabetes within the youth community. But that's really where diabetes support started.
Tell us more about your monthly educational groups.
Sure. So every month we have, on average, 4 educational events located here in Salem, and then also out in Dallas. And on occasion, out in Silverton, we're looking at that market. Seasonally, we've kind of been in and out of the Silverton market. For an hour, we bring in healthcare professionals, we bring in guest speakers, providing a wide range of information, because what we've learned is that not every solution works for every diabetic. You really have to provide kind of a buffet for them, not only from a biological standpoint, because not every medication works with every single diabetic, but also we have to consider lifestyles.
I understand that twice a year you offer health fairs related to diabetes.
Twice a year, we have what's called a Power Over Diabetes health fair, and generally we have them here in the Willamette area. Sometimes we actually have them on the coast, and which I like because we get to go to the beach.
I don't understand that.
and we bring in doctors, we bring in celebrity chefs, and we'll be having one this year as well. It's for anyone watching this program, just check our website for under events and calendar.
That's great.
Great.
And it's a whole day of festivities, education. We have vendors there, we have doctors there, we have cooking demonstrations, and it's a time when everyone can come on a Saturday, bring their family, learn all the tools that we're using, and some things that they may not be aware of, and it's just a great time.
I went there to one of those fairs right here in Salem, and I spoke to a young woman named Skyla, and I took a little video of her talking about just how much diabetes support services meant to her and why. Let's take a look at that video.
My diabetes, because I didn't know I had it, had been so out of control that I found out I was diabetic because I was hospitalized. And my blood glucose was 1,300. And I didn't even know that I had diabetes. So it was quite shocking, very surprising. I was 37 years old, and out of nowhere, I'm a type 2 diabetic, insulin dependent immediately. From the moment I left the hospital, I was insulin dependent. And I didn't know what to do. I was very scared. Somebody gave me a number for Oregon Health Authority. And I wish I could remember her name, but basically she put me in touch with Sandra. And she said, hey, there's this group of people, they help diabetics specifically, it's what they do, call her and see what she can do for you. So hat in hand, I showed up on Sandra's doorstep, and she invited me into her home. She took me into her living room, and she sat down, and the first thing she did was comfort me and just tell me, it's okay. Yes, you're a diabetic, it's not a death sentence. You can still live a long, healthy, productive life even though you're a diabetic. So let's get you started on what you need. And she just, when I left, I had a bag of everything I needed except the medications. She gave me some resources and ideas on how to get the medications that I needed. And for the next year, I went to the monthly meetings, which not only gave me the supplies that I needed until I had the money to get my own, but gave me a lot of good information about how to manage my diabetes without feeling like a diabetic all the time. And that was really important to me. I am a fairly young person. I have little kids. I have a lot of stuff I want to do with the next 40, 50 years of my life. And it doesn't include staying at home, pricking my finger, and counting every single thing that I eat. So Diabetes Support Services was really there for me when I needed them. I don't know if I would have gotten the help that I needed if they hadn't given it to me.
Wow.
That's an amazing story and
Really.
really shows the importance of your organization.
Yeah, Skyla's story is really phenomenal.
Yeah. How do people get in touch with you online, and how is your organization supported?
Yeah, how can you offer all these free services?
So to find us online, you can easily visit www.sugarsmart.org. It makes it very easy to spell and find us. To find our events, you can simply click on the event tab or the calendar tab. We're supported actually through independent entrepreneurs in the local area who really believe in the work that we're doing and continue to provide us with donations throughout the year.
Wow.
And we're just really blessed to have them on our side and allies in this purpose for education.
Oh, thank you so much for coming in today. I learned things that I didn't know about diabetes.
Yeah,
This is
I
just,
didn't realize it was such a widespread issue.
oh, it is.
Well,
And,
thanks, Wendy, and thanks, Ross, for having me.
and thank you for joining us today on InSight. We'll see you again.